So please, so welcome to the ritual for Palestine for Teshuvah. So as you're considering what brings you here today, and in a moment I'll ask you to type it into the chat, I'd like to share a very short story of what brings me here today. I moved to Israel from Brooklyn in 2004 on a Jewish spiritual journey to immerse myself in an all-encompassing Jewish life. When I arrived in Jerusalem, unbeknownst to me, I fell in love with Arab architecture, unbeknownst because as a Jewish person who grew up in the US in the 1980s, I had been raised utterly ignorant about Palestine and Palestinians. Even though I was living in West Jerusalem, technically the unoccupied part of Jerusalem, I was living in an Arab house in Baca, a house that was now owned by Jewish Israelis and rented to me, an American Jew. Eventually, thanks to friends of mine like Layla Sansor, who's here with us today, I was given the opportunity to learn about what I needed to know, which were the horrors of the occupation, the reality of apartheid policies against Palestinians under Israeli rule. And I came to understand that in all likelihood, the Palestinian owners of the house I lived in had been forced out in 1948. So perhaps like many people in this room with similar and different stories, I became involved in the anti-occupation work, political education, Palestinian solidarity. And I continued to live in my rented apartment in an Arab house in Baca in Jerusalem. In the summer of 2008, a Palestinian American friend of mine who I'd gotten to know in Bethlehem came to visit me in Jerusalem. I asked her what it felt like to be in this home, aware of its previous ownership. And she gave me her honest answer. She said, it felt creepy. And she also said to me in the summer of 2008, you know, if someone would just apologize, if someone would say, I'm sorry, it wouldn't make everything better, but it would be a start. And that was when I became attuned, alongside all of the solidarity work that I was doing, how important it is in a collective sense for there to be a Jewish voice that says, I'm sorry. Not because an apology makes everything okay, as my friend pointed out. There is tremendous work to be done. And still, we must begin by naming the ways that wrongs have happened, which is part of what we'll do as a collective here today. And so one more introductory note, and then I'm going to ask, as you're thinking about it, why it is each of us is here today, our collective and individual intentions. I think this is understood, but I feel it's important to name that this is not about harm that has perpetrated against Jews, which is a reality of our lives. And I'll tell a slightly shorter but related story about that. In the 1990s, my mother took an ancestral heritage trip to Belarus, where her grandparents were from. And when she visited the town they lived, where they fled because of anti-Semitism, she went to the home in Belarus where her grandparents had lived, and the Christian Belarusians opened the front door of the house, but wouldn't let them in. And I asked my mother how it felt to be at her ancestral home. And she said, it felt creepy. And so there is a time and a place for Jews, for Israelis to seek the repair that we deserve for harm that has been committed against us, but this is not that time. This hour is a time for us to turn our spiritual attention as Jews towards Palestine. So if you've had a moment to think about it, I'm going to put the prompt in the chat box, and maybe you've noticed that I like to use the chat box predominantly for our ritual space here. I want to invite everyone to share, whether it's a few words an intention of what brings you here, what's your intention, your kavanah, what's called you here. And with much gratitude to the Chevre of my Aleph Rabbinic program, I've asked some of my fellow rabbinical students from Aleph to support this ritual. And so you can go ahead and start typing in the chat box. And Sue Swartz and Rinat Abastado are going to support us by reading these in on a rolling basis, taking a breath in between, and taking a moment to collectively share what brings us here today.
So this is from Emet. I grew up in Israel in the 60s and 70s, and I also learned nothing about the Nakba. It's taking me this long, I say to my shame.
This is from Lauren Zinn, who's in Ann Arbor. I'm here because I think it is critically important to include a prayer on Yom Kippur and all days, seeking forgiveness from Palestinians and to make amends. I don't feel comfortable going to services without such a prayer, so thank you for doing this.
These are my own words. I think that it is really important for Jews everywhere to reflect that how genocide is even possible in the name of safety for Jews, especially for US Jews who are so complicit in this unspeakable, horrific genocide.
From Deborah Sagner. An overwhelming sense of collective guilt for the genocide as a Jew and as an American.
From Leaf, to repent for the generational ongoing harms to Palestine.
From Sam, not knowing what to do.
Emet. I'm here because I've begun working on a reparative work with friends of standing together here, building relationship with local Palestinians.
From Anya, I cannot bear being implicated in genocide as a Jew and as a human, and feeling so little power to do otherwise.
For Catherine, I'm here to seek help from community, to not go into numbness in the face of overwhelm and horror.
From Eli, really sitting with Ilana's words about the simplicity of acknowledging and owning harm. I am riddled with the cognitive dissonance this time of year, sitting with the vidui, slichot, etc., and not seeing leadership taken to channel these technologies toward the harm perpetrated against our Palestinian siblings.
From Joel. This enormous collective harm, the worst thing we've ever been a part of, is going to go unnamed in most US Jewish institutions on Yom Kippur. I can't stand it.
Emet replied, Here, in this space, it is not going unnamed. They've been making pager jokes. I will not give up on my community, but I am furious at the leadership. Not in this space, in my shul.
Julia. My local Reform temple, where I am a member and my preschooler is enrolled in Hebrew school, has been silent on Palestine this year and in previous years. I cannot express the pain of that cognitive dissonance during this time, where we are called to repent and atone for the harm we have caused in the world.
From Lena. I am here because I felt this is the slichot I most needed. I feel the weight of this guilt and shame every single day. It's lonely and excruciating, and without a place to put it, without a place to learn to live with and act, to speak with wisdom.
From Hadar. I'm here to engage in material, which is spiritual practice of teshuvah as collective Jewish work towards Palestinians.
Zina. To share this moment before the high holidays with like-minded Jews who are willing to acknowledge our own culpability.
From Corita. Being in community, in a practice of repair, intention, grief, reflection, action, ritual.
From Margaret. I have been mostly thinking about my personal responsibility for the current catastrophe. I welcome the opportunity to feel part of something larger than my own soul's teshuvah.
From Adam. I'm here to further tap into our Jewish sacred technologies and Jewish community in order to nourish and sustain myself for the years of struggle and reparations that lie ahead of us.
From Alice. For the first time in my life, I am floundering about what being a Jew means to me, how to draw on Jewish roots and sources during the high holidays when, for the first time in my life, I'm feeling shame about being Jewish rather than pride.
Thank you, Sue. We have time for one more, and hopefully we can also keep reading. Please. Thank you, Sue. Go ahead, Renat.
From Gal. I'm here to continue and to begin again the process of naming the continued seen and unseen harms, all the large and small ways that I was taught and continue to replicate systems and structures of erasure and of ignorance to Palestinians across the world.
Thank you, Rinat. Thank you, Sue. And thank you, everyone, for writing in. It's quite powerful to hear both the unique and shared reasons that bring us here today. We're moving towards the heart of this ritual as we co-create this sacred space together, which is going to consist of a collective vidui writing, a confession. And I want to offer some more words of preface as we move towards how I've conceived of this ritual and how I have not conceived of this ritual gathering for us to do a collective confession in this time of Elul. In Jewish tradition, when we confess our sins during the high holiday season, we say the vast majority of our prayers in the plural. Ashamnu, bagadnu, gazalnu. They're conjugated in the form of anachnu, we. We have gone astray. We have spoken out of turn. We have stolen. We have slandered. We don't stand up in synagogue and say, well, I didn't do that one, so I'm going to skip it. There's an understanding that we're part of something bigger than ourselves, that's part of what it means to be a member of Klal Yisrael, of the collective Jewish people. We don't point fingers, we don't single out one person, and we don't separate ourselves. And yet, I want to name a hesitation that I've had about this for the years that I've been thinking about this moment, which we've come to together here. Making an active choice to be in this prayerful space together and to speak in the collective does not and should not imply in any way that every Jewish person is individually responsible for the actions of the state of Israel. We are not. The state of Israel is responsible for its actions. The US government is responsible for its actions. The Israeli military is responsible for its actions. I want to make a distinction, lahavdil, to separate between political accountability that does need to be leveraged, that I think is separate from spiritual accountability, because to be entirely clear, blaming every Jewish person for the behavior of the state of Israel is anti-Semitism, and we're waging that struggle on other fronts as well. I think this is a hard subtlety to parse out, and I have hesitated for some years around this, but someone has to name the wrongs that have been done in our name, and someone has to say, I'm sorry. And I think we all know it's not going to be the Israeli government, the Israeli military, or the US government anytime soon. The process of teshuvah must be engaged in authentically. And so for me to take seriously my membership in Klal Yisrael, in the Jewish people, it calls me on a spiritual level to have a sense of responsibility collectively for what is done by other Jews. And the rabbis have this beloved spiritual conceptual framework of holding seemingly contradictory slips of paper in our pocket. On one side, the slip of paper says, I am nothing but dust and ashes. And on the other side says, for my sake alone was the world created. And so the rabbis have found ways to encourage us to live in seeming paradox. And I want to invite us, as we move into the heart of this ritual, to also live in that paradox. And so in engaging in a collective act of teshuvah, we can hold in one pocket a Talmudic saying, Kol Yisrael aravim zeh bazeh. All Jews are responsible for each other. And in the other pocket, those who commit actual harm are the ones responsible for rectifying the actual harm. So with that caveat, in a moment, I'm going to invite us to utilize the chat box again for our ritual. And I will paste in the prompt when I'm ready to invite it. But so that you may want to begin thinking about it, it is going to be to write in the collective the way that we collectively confess our sins about the harms that have been done. So we're going to use the formulation that the High Holiday Mahzor uses in the collective. And just like we don't name names in synagogue and we don't say, I didn't do this one or you did that one, we're not going to be doing this in the individual. We're not going to read the names of who said them, because whoever writes them in is somehow we're embodying a much larger collective that we're part of in this moment. And as we do that, we can acknowledge ways that harm has been committed against Palestinians and Palestine by Jews, in recognizing that what began on October 7th has roots that go far back to 1948 and earlier. So as a reminder, we don't have to agree. We don't have to say, I did this or I didn't do this. This is a spiritual rectification of harm that has been done collectively with the direct and explicit support of the US government, and tragically at the urging of far too many Jews. In the opening pages of the Yom Kippur Mahzor, our prayer book on the eve of Kol Nidre, we read the following words, and we say them 3 times, which I will share in English and in Hebrew in just a moment. With the consent of the Almighty and the consent of this community, in the heavenly council above and the council of humanity below, we are permitted to pray with transgressors. Al da'at hamakom ve'al da'at hakahal, v'shiva shel mala u'v'shiva shel mata. Anu matirin lihitpalel im ha'av avar yanim. With the consent of the Almighty and the consent of this community, in the heavenly council above and in the council of humanity below, we are permitted to pray with transgressors. And so I now invite, using these suggestions, to write in wrongs that have been committed towards Palestine and Palestinians, using the formulation we have. And I've invited my dear colleagues in rabbinical school, Jen Reitman and Sasha Perry, to read them, interspersed with the singing of the melody of the tune by Eli. So maybe we'll read a few and ask Eli to sing a melody in between and continue interspersed.
We have erased the Palestinians' humanity. We have starved. We have embraced triumphalism.
Hi, hi, hi.
We have allowed our own fear and pain to block our vision of the fear and pain of others. We have killed entire families. We have ignored the history of the Nakba.
Hi, hi, hi.
We have suppressed and denied knowledge of Palestinian suffering. We have stayed silent when our fellow Jews are saying lies about the state of the occupation and genocide. We have obfuscated and denied the relationships between Palestinians to the land of Palestine.
We have stayed silent when other Jews have cheered on Israel's genocide of Palestinians. We have made millions of Palestinians homeless. We have oppressed a people in our own name. We have embraced unending war. We have looked away.
We have silenced Palestinian voices. We have failed to manage our own fears at the cost of Palestinian lives. We have resided on land taken through violence. We have endorsed retribution.
We have closed our eyes and ears in order to maintain our pride in our heritage. We have made excuses for not taking action. We have bombed, crushed, shot, and beaten.
We have done nothing in the face of extraordinary violence, occupation, and genocide. We have destroyed any trust and goodwill between our communities. We have murdered people exactly as we said we never would.
We have waited until now to organize. We have put our own generational trauma above actual Palestinian lives in the present. We have allowed polio to emerge. We have used our pain to justify causing pain to others. We have denied truth.
We have ignored our own being as Arabs. We have allowed our cousins to become tools of state violence to enforce systems of terror. We have carried on with our lives despite our horror at what we have done. We have distorted and abandoned values that make our tradition powerful and beautiful.
We have prayed, gathered, dropped off our children in buildings that will wave Israeli flags and banners, no matter what the Israeli army does to other children. We have committed terrorism in Palestine and other countries. We have destroyed olive trees. We have stayed silent in our home congregations in order to belong.
We have aided in the commission of a genocide with our tax dollars and by patronizing corporations and entities complicit in Israel's policies of violence towards and dispossession of Palestinians. We have participated in institutions that support and justify Jewish supremacy. We have drowned in fire. We have stoned. We have bombed. we have turned away.
Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay.
We have separated ourselves and dehumanized and dehumanized and dehumanized. We have numbed ourselves to make daily life bearable. We have looked away because it is too hard to see what we are doing.
Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay.
We have done all the things we said they did to us and many, many worse things. We have declared Jewish life to be more important than others. We have tortured. We have tortured. We have raped.
Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay.
We have made videos mocking the families driven out of their homes, posed with their clothes and toys, eaten their food. We have ignored the West Bank. We have ignored the ongoing settlements. We have leashed killer dogs on a human being with Down syndrome. We have stood outside our synagogues in whispers instead of being brave enough to say the words inside.
Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay.
We have bombed schools and clinics. We have said they must see our pain first. We have failed to do what needs to be done.
Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, 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 ay.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing such honest confessions. Thank you, Jen and Sasha and Eli, for your voices. Let's take a breath. In Jewish tradition, we distinguish between actions that are between humans, ben adam lechavero, between a person and their friend, a person and another human being, and actions that are between a human and the eternal one, ben adam lemakom. Our tradition reminds us that while Yom Kippur atones for the sins against God, to atone for sins against other humans, we must take right action. And I would like to believe that we have taken one step today together towards right action. What I want to invite us to do right now is to take a moment of turning back inwards, to think about how you want to face, embrace, or maybe avoid the upcoming high holiday season, which will put us in the collective company, perhaps of people we don't know if we agree with. This year, how will we navigate that? Who do you want to be and how do you want to show up? Because as the month of Elul closes, the new moon of Tishrei will greet us, and it will be Rosh Hashanah. And 10 days later, it will be Yom Kippur. And while this specific configuration is only meeting at this specific moment in time, we can also take this configuration and carry it forward in our hearts with whatever synagogue, community, space we do or don't choose to go to. So let's take a moment to collectively integrate our companionship in this moment and maybe create a little space for it in our hearts so that we know whatever space we find ourselves in, whatever external space we find ourselves in, we can carry this internal space with us. So let's take a moment of silence to consolidate that in our hearts. And the last invitation that I want to offer is a going forward. And we're not going to put it in the chat box, but it's to come up with your own personal sense of what your next step is, what's right for you. It could be that it feels like an incomplete moment to end here. And I have to admit that that is partially by design, because we're still in the midst of this awful war, a war which may be expanding and not contracting. And so I don't want to close with a false sense of closure. I don't think there's closure, and I don't want to pretend to offer it. But I do want to invite us to get our own personal clarity as we exit the Zoomiverse and go off into our respective personal and collective universes, wherever we may live, with one last question, which is, what am I personally called to do going forward? And only you can answer that. We're exiting this collective space and going back into your individual spaces, which may be connected, hopefully, to other supportive collective spaces. But let's take a moment to sense into, before we do our closing prayer that I'll offer and a closing nigun. I deeply believe in my neshama that we are each called. And so in this moment before we depart, how are you called? My teacher in Jerusalem used to say that God shows us the next step. So let's take a moment to ask for that guidance of what our next step is, each and every one of us. my closing words to offer a prayer. May these words of teshuvah and this season of the days of awe help us collectively further turn our hearts towards the actions which must be done to save lives, to end this war, to bring home everyone who has been unjustly captured, and to bring forth a future in which Palestinian lives and Israeli lives are honored in their fullest shared dignity and humanity. May we bring that day closer and sooner in our days. Ken Yehi Ratzon. May it be so. Thank you all for coming. Eli, thank you for closing us out.
Hi, ay, 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 ay. Hi, ay, 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 ay. Hi, ay, 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 ay. Hi, ay, ay. Hi, ay, ay. Hi, ay, ay. Hi, ay, ay, ay. Hi, ay, ay, ay. Hi, ay, 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 ay. Hi, ay, 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 ay.